manual, you keep a garage and do all these things. And you get exactly one mind and one body in this world. And you can't start taking care of it when you're 50.
If you woke up tomorrow morning as the 8th richest individual in the world, how much cosmetic surgery will your lifestyle undergo? Most of us relate so well to the popular social media line, "When I become rich, there will be signs." However, billionaire business mogul Warren Buffett is shutting down signs of his immense wealth. Despite his billionaire status, he still lives like a poor man. Wondering how? Let's find out. Warren rules for Warren wealth. At age 94, Warren Buffett has become a textbook study for all the right ways to create generational wealth. When he gives business advice, many quickly listen and even write down points because the numbers do not lie. Warren Buffett lives by certain business principles that have saved him one too many times. We will share 6 of these principles that can help in the face of economic meltdowns and inflation. Perhaps you will be closer to meeting that millionaire mark or closing that office deal after this. At number 1, we have Warren's famous first rule: never lose money. Of course, as entrepreneurs, it is quite difficult to adhere to this rule. In the presence of risk, there is a 50% eventuality of loss. That is why Warren admonishes the entrepreneur from making quick, brash decisions. The entrepreneur should not take frivolous risks. He should take calculated risks. Warren lost over $25 billion in the financial crisis of 2008, and his company, Berkshire Hathaway, lost its AAA ratings. This brings us to his next rule. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. The single value of mistakes is that one can take lessons from the failed situation. Warren teaches entrepreneurs to always remember to make their business decisions based on rule number 1. At number 3, Warren teaches us a lesson in understanding. A rule Warren Buffett lived by was that he never bought a stick in a company unless he could write down the reasons he was willing to pay a specific price per share. This is a wise principle for entrepreneurs to live by because it prevents them from dipping their finances into investments they cannot explain. These reasons speak to the entrepreneur's beliefs and help him take financially beneficial risks. At number 4, the entrepreneur learns that the holding period is forever. Warren Buffett advises that if you don't feel comfortable owning stock for 10 years, you shouldn't own it for 10 minutes. This helps the entrepreneur or investor from hastily selling stocks when they are nearing the bottom or buying them at their peak before they can appreciate. More than social media will like you to believe, patience is a major part of the entrepreneur's success story. At number 5, we take a principle from Warren Buffett's experiences: be willing to lead differently. What makes a leader is not his ability to act according to whatever feels trendy. It is the choice to make decisions that may seem unconventional or out of the norm. In 1995, Warren Buffett started with only $100,000. The money was gotten from investors who placed blind trust in a man who wasn't familiar with Wall Street. Warren never informed the investors about his business plans or strategies to regain their capital. Yet, he turned that capital into $100 million. Finally, at number 6, Warren teaches us about the infamous Western culture of credit cards. The idea behind investments is to earn interest and not give it away. Hence, the entrepreneur or investor should exercise caution when borrowing more than they can repay. Debt always finds a way to bite the entrepreneur's business. Warren, in a 1991 talk at the University of Notre Dame, said, "I have seen more people fail because of liquor and leverage being borrowed money." We are all aware of the many pitfalls associated with liquor. However, the dangers of debt are less publicized. Now that we know the billionaire business mogul's 6 investment principles, let's dive into his background to understand how he reached billionaire status and why he chose to live like a poor man. Warren Buffett, early life. Warren Buffett was born on the 30th of August 1930 as Warren Edward Buffett. He was born in Omaha, Nebraska, as the second child and only son of Howard and Layla Buffett. His father, Howard, was a congressman. Warren began his education at Rose Hill Elementary School and attended Alice Deal Junior High School. This was after Howard Buffett was elected to the United States Congress and moved to Washington, D.C. with his family. Warren graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in 1947 and immediately found his path in entrepreneurial activities. His senior yearbook picture read, "Likes math, a future stockbroker." At just 7 years of age, Warren was inspired by a book he borrowed from the Omaha Public Library, 1,000 Ways to Make $1,000. This showed how interested he was in matters of finance and business. Warren sold chewing gum, soda, and weekly magazines in his earlier business ventures, walking door to door. The image of the young businessman ready to make a sale at the doorstep of every family on the block must have gotten him so many adoring customers. Warren also worked in his grandfather's store, and while in high school, he earned money by delivering newspapers. He also sold golf balls and stamps. This was only a few among his many businesses as a teenage boy. When he began to wear adult pants and had to pay tax, he got a $35 deduction for using his bicycle and watch on his paper route. In 1945, Warren and his friends invested in a used pinball machine and placed it in a local barber shop. The business was a local success within months. They owned several machines in 3 different barber shops. However, they later sold the business for $1,200. It was not a bad deal at all for a bunch of teenagers. Warren's interest in the stock was not acquired as an adult. He had become interested in the stock market and investments from high school, and his father also owned a brokerage office. Howard noticed Warren's curiosity and took it upon himself to educate him on investing and stocks. Warren disclosed that at some point, his father took him to visit the New York Stock Exchange as a child. When he was 11, he bought 3 shares of Citi Service Preferred for Warren and 3 for his sister, Doris Buffett. During his time delivering newspapers, Warren made over $175 monthly. He invested this money in a business owned by his father, and later on, he bought a farm at just 14 years of age with his savings. By the time Warren was closing the chapter of college, he could boast of owning almost $10,000 in savings. At the current economic value, that could cost around $125,000 today. Due to pressure from Howard Buffett, Warren enrolled in the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania against his will. The young businessman wanted to focus on his business and earn more, but his father believed a complete education was more important. Warren studied there for 2 years and later transferred to the University of Nebraska and graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration in 1951. He immediately got into the Columbia Business School because of his mentor, Benjamin Graham. Benjamin Graham is said to have been a major influence in Warren's life. He earned his master's in economics and attended the New York Institute of Finance. For someone who initially did not see the need for a college education, he gathered up more degrees than the average Tom. Warren knew what he needed to get to where he wanted to be. He also knew when to listen and heed advice. His steady climb to success in business is admirable and motivating. Warren's climb to success. In 1951, Warren discovered that Benjamin Graham was part of the board members of Geico Insurance. On a Saturday afternoon, he took the train to Washington, D.C., and knocked until he was let in. He met the vice president, Lorimer Davidson, and engaged him in a conversation about the insurance business. This chat continued for hours, and Warren purchased his first stock there. Davidson, Lorimer, and Warren Buffett agreed on a lifelong friendship from that conversation. Warren wanted to work on Wall Street, but his father and Ben Graham had advised him against the idea. He offered to work for Graham for free, but Graham refused to take him in. Warren returned to his hometown and took up a job as a stockbroker. He also took a course in public speaking to boost his confidence. Then he taught an investment principles night class at the University of Nebraska. Considering that the average age of his students was twice his own, the public speaking course came in handy. Warren accepted a job under Benjamin Graham's partnership by 1954. His salary was around $12,000 a year, and he worked closely with Walter Schloss. Benjamin Graham decided to retire only 2 years into his new job. He closed the partnership. However, Warren already had a personal savings of over $174,000. He returned to Omaha and started up a couple of investment partnerships. In 1959, Warren could boast of owning 6 investment partnerships that were doing well. 2 years later, Warren disclosed that 35% of the partnership's assets were in the Sanborn Map Company. He purchased 23% of the company's outstanding shares, and by doing so, he secured a seat on the company's board of directors. He joined forces with dissatisfied shareholders to control 44% of the shares. The board offered to repurchase shares at a better value, and Warren earned a 50% return on his investment in only 2 years. By 1962, Warren was already a millionaire. His partnerships were a success. He had merged with several partnerships and had maintained a positive profit margin. Warren now decided to take control of a textile manufacturing company known as Berkshire Hathaway. He started by buying shares from the company's owner, Seabury Stanton. Later on, he fired Stanton. Talk about major power moves. This decision was not for mean reasons. Warren's partnerships first began purchasing shares in Berkshire at $7.60 per share. In 1965, Warren's partnerships were buying more and more into Berkshire's shares, this time at $14.86 per share. The company had a working capital of $19 per share. The math was off. They did not include the value of fixed assets. Warren named a new president in what seemed to be a board meeting takeover. A year later, he closed the partnership. He later disclosed that the textile trade was one of his worst trades. He moved into insurance, and by 1985, the last of Berkshire was sold off. In a letter, Warren announced his first investment in a private business, Hochschild, John & Company. It was a privately owned department store. By 1969, he liquidated the partnership and transferred the assets to his partners. These assets included shares of Berkshire Hathaway. In 1973, Berkshire began to acquire stock in the Washington Post. Warren knew that Katharine Graham controlled the company and its newspaper. He became close friends with her. The following year, the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, investigated Warren and one of Berkshire's acquisitions. This was due to a possible conflict of interest, but no charges were made. In 1987, Berkshire Hathaway purchased a 12% stake in Salomon Inc. This made it the largest shareholder in the fold and inevitably made Warren a director. In 1990, a scandal involving the former CEO of Salomon Brothers, John Gutfreund, came to light. A trader had submitted more bids than what was allowed by the Treasury, and when it got to Gutfreund, he did not fire him immediately. He eventually left the company, and Warren became chairman until the heat reduced. Warren Buffett eventually hit one of his most lucrative investments in the long run. He bought stock from the Coca-Cola Company. For the great sum of $1.2 billion, Warren copped a 7% return of the company for himself. The Coca-Cola Company has certainly stood the test of time, and Warren is still holding on to his shares in the company today. There is no doubt it is appreciated nicely. Warren Buffett hit $11 billion worth of contracts by 2002, and in April 2006, his total gain on the contracts was off the roof. The amount was an estimated $2 billion. In June of the same year, Warren announced that he would gladly give his Berkshire holdings to foundations as annual gifts in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. By 2007, in a letter addressed to his shareholders, he expressed his need and search for a younger successor, or successors interested in running an investment business. More than a few must have risen to the opportunity between then and now. It is rightly so. Warren Buffett's rise to billionaire status can and should be emulated. However, he did not always have great luck in business and negotiations. Here is how the Great Recession shook the mogul. Tips on surviving a recession. Warren may have taken a wrong turn during the 2007 and 2008 mortgage crisis, otherwise known as the Great Recession. He had allocated capital too early, which resulted in underwhelming deals. He referred to the downturn in the finance sector during this period as poetic justice. Berkshire witnessed a staggering 77% drop in earnings during the third quarter of 2008. He also suffered losses from other deals after this one. On the 23rd of September 2008, Berkshire acquired 10% of the perpetual preferred stock of Goldman Sachs. The scale of loss Berkshire was going to experience prompted the SEC to demand a disclosure accounting for the factors used to value their contracts. In his bid to help Dow Chemical pay for its $18.8 billion takeover of Röhm and Haas, he became the largest shareholder in the Berkshire Hathaway Corporation. This aided the losses that Berkshire had been experiencing in the past couple of years. In 2008, while many corporations fell to the ground, Warren was said to be worth an estimated $60 billion according to Forbes and $58 billion according to Yahoo. He had just snagged Bill Gates' position as #1 on the Forbes list of billionaires. Gates held this title for 13 consecutive years. The following year, Bill Gates took his position back to #1. and Warren was close on his heels in number 2. Both men's net worth had lowered significantly due to the previous year's recession. In October of 2008, there was news that Warren had agreed to purchase General Electric's preferred stock. This opportunity came with incentives. He could buy 3 billion shares of GE stock at $22.25. This deal was to be held for 5 years, and Warren received a 10% dividend, which he could request within 3 years. In February of the following year, Warren sold some of the Procter & Gamble Company shares from his portfolio. Berkshire's major holdings at Coca-Cola peaked at $86, and people began to question if the business mogul was suffering from a bad case of mistiming. In response to the questions surrounding the difficulties of recognizing the right time to sell, Warren Buffett said in the company's 2004 annual reports, "That may seem easy to do when one looks through an always clean rearview mirror. Unfortunately, it's the windshield through which investors must peer, and that glass is invariably fogged." In 2009, Warren disclosed in a television interview that the economy had fallen off. He said, "Not only has the economy slowed down a lot, but people have changed their habits like I haven't seen." Warren feared the return of a greater recession, which could be likened to the terrible inflation levels of the 1970s. By 2011, Goldman Sachs was approved to buy back Berkshire's stock in Goldman. Warren was not eager to give it up. The stock averaging $1.4 million in daily dividends was a golden egg. Warren said, "I'm going to be the Osama bin Laden of capitalism. I'm on my way to an unknown destination in Asia where I'm going to look for a cave. If the U.S. armed forces can't find Osama bin Laden in 10 years, let Goldman Sachs try to find me." Although Warren advises young investors to put their money in companies they understand, he broke his rule at least once. It was announced in November 2011 that Warren had purchased 64 million shares worth $11 billion from the International Business Machine Corporation. This investment simultaneously raised his stake in the company and his asset worth. It became the largest stake in IBM, and Warren's prior advice not to invest in a market he did not understand made this business move a total surprise to observers and other investors alike. In an interview, he explained why he had broken his investment rules. Warren explained that the company's ability to retain corporate clients impressed him. He commented on the company's durability and efficiency. "I don't know of any large company that has been as specific on what they intend to do and how they intend to do it as IBM." Warren knew that as a leader, there were moments when one had to choose unconventional options in the face of inevitable opportunities. In a presentation to students at Georgetown University, Warren compared the U.S. Federal Reserve to a hedge fund. He stated that the bank probably generates around $80 to $90 billion annually. Compared to the issue of wealth equality in society, these numbers are too good to be true. In the 2013 presentations, he advocated for economic equality, saying, "We have learned to turn out lots of goods and services, but we haven't learned as well how to have everybody share in the bounty. The obligation of a society as prosperous as ours is to figure out how nobody gets left too far behind." After the harrowing impact of the economic crisis on Warren's investments, he not only managed to bounce back from mistakes that cost him millions, but he secured the spot as the second richest billionaire. Currently, he is in 8th place. Still, there is so much to learn from the business mogul. This encompasses his finances, business principles, and way of life. Here is how the billionaire lives like regular income earners. The simple life of a regular billionaire. At 1952, Warren married his first wife, Susan Buffett. They had 3 children and were permanently separated in the event of Susan's demise in 2004. Warren disclosed that when his daughter Susie was born, he converted a dresser drawer into a bassinet for her to sleep in. For Howard, he borrowed a crib. His frugality is a trait to be studied. Warren has been known to live below his means despite his billionaire status. He once told CNBC that he never wanted to own multiple houses or cars. He lives in a modest home in Omaha, his hometown. He called the home his third best investment. In 1958, he bought the home for $31,500, and now it is worth an estimated $1.4 million. The home boasts 5 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms.
Casa de Warren Buffett.
Warren purchased a vacation home in Laguna Beach, California, in 1971. The home cost $150,000 at the time of purchase. It was part of a gated community known as Emerald Bay, and the house had 6 bedrooms. It was the perfect vacation home. He renovated the house and put it on the market for $11 million, but eventually sold it at $7.5 million in October 2018. Although many affluent individuals reject the idea of thrift items, Warren's 2001 Lincoln Town Car has the word thrifty boldly written on its license plate. He used the car for over a decade before auctioning it off in place of a 2006 Cadillac CTS. When he replaced the car with a Cadillac CTS, he disclosed that he only drove about 3,500 miles a year, so he bought a new car very infrequently. Warren Buffett has made significant splurges before. One of those includes a used private jet. He spent over $850,000 on it and later upgraded it to another used jet in 1989. With the help of his business partner Charlie Munger, he named the second jet the Indefensible. If there's anything worth noticing is the fact that Warren always kept a transparent relationship with his shareholders, informing them about most of his expenses relating to company funds. Surprisingly, Warren Buffett also used a flip phone for many years, despite owning shares in Apple. He did not upgrade his phone until 2020. He claimed he preferred the Samsung flip phone, which anyone can get for under $20. He gets his suits from a Chinese designer, Madam Lee, and has been doing so since he was a young entrepreneur. He still gets the same $18 haircut from the same barbershop in the building close to his office. Warren has admitted to eating McDonald's regularly and drinking an alarming amount of Coca-Cola. In the HBO documentary Becoming Warren Buffett, he admitted drinking at least 5 servings daily. He usually spent $3.17 on his breakfast order in 2017. He once told Fortune that he eats like a 6-year-old. Warren remains friends with his billionaire longtime colleague, Bill Gates. Once Buffett went to McDonald's in Hong Kong with Bill Gates and paid with coupons, Gates reminisced in his 2017 annual letters. The letter reads, "Remember the laugh we had when we traveled together to Hong Kong and decided to get lunch at McDonald's? You offered to pay, dug into your pocket, and pulled out coupons." Bill Gates described Buffett as a thoughtful and kind friend and said that every time he visited Omaha, Buffett would drive to the airport to pick him up. Warren once admitted in a shareholders' meeting that there were things that money could not buy. He said, "I don't think the standard of living equates with the cost of living beyond a certain point. My life couldn't be happier. It'd be worse if I had 6 or 8 houses. So I have everything I need to have, and I don't need any more because it doesn't make a difference after a point." Warren Buffett's lifestyle should be emulated and praised. He is the image of a diligent businessman, don't you think? What can you say about his frugal lifestyle? It seems to be a pretty smart financial decision. Share your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.